Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to our Tuesday series for Virtual Virginia support with the expansion project with Canvas in the divisions across the Commonwealth. I'm Dominic Church, the Regional Director for Instructure K-12 Sales in the Mid-Atlantic region, and I'm joined today by several of my colleagues. Looks like I've got Josh and Katie and Rachel with me today. Looks like we've got a smaller group than we're used to seeing here on these Tuesdays, and I think it's probably because we've got so many opportunities to connect now with the Monday and Friday meetings, and so people are picking and choosing where and when they're coming for support. But we're glad you came to spend some time with us today. We do understand that the K-8 materials have dropped recently with Virtual Virginia, and Brian Mott has asked us to go over again, just how can we grab those materials from the Virtual Virginia Commons Consortium and pull them into your courses at the division level. So I'm going to turn it over to Rachel to kind of give us a refresher on that, as well as a couple of refreshers on where to go for Tier 1 support and the training portal as well. It's not a terrible idea to hammer these things home, because this is really where you're going to go for that first level of support if ever you find yourself struggling with anything. But with that, turn it right over to Rachel to give us a tour.
All right, Dominic, can you confirm that you're seeing my screen?
I sure can.
All right, so anywhere we're going to start with how you would import content, not necessarily just the K-8 content, but that might be top of mind since that's what's recently been released. So whether I'm inside a course in Canvas or I'm back on my dashboard, no matter where I am, if I want to go access content, I use Commons, which is this icon here on the left-hand side that I'm hovered over. And I can go ahead and click on Commons, and Commons is the Canvas Learning Object Repository. And based on how your division has set Commons up, you may initially see content that is specific to Virtual Virginia. You may initially see content that is just your division's content, or maybe most likely what happens when you come in is you see around 130,000 results, which encompasses all of the publicly shared resources, even outside of Virginia. But to get to the Virtual Virginia content specifically, you'll use this filter icon in the top right corner. As I scroll down, you will likely have different options than what you're seeing here, but you all should have access to the toggle for Virginia Public Schools. And so you will go ahead and toggle that filter on. And then as soon as you do that, all of your results here will just be the content that has been shared by Virtual Virginia, or potentially content that has been shared by other Virginia divisions and shared into this space. And then you have the option here to use any search filters that you would like. When you find a course that you'd like to import, you can simply go ahead and select the course itself. You'll be able to see some preview details about the course. You can take a look at the content if you would like. But if that is indeed the course you want to import, you'll go ahead and click this import button on the right-hand side, and then you'll just select the course that you want to bring it into. So you'll want to make sure that you have a course to, of course, import that into. So whether that's a course that has been provisioned by your SIS, or whether it's a sandbox course or a manually created course that you have, you'll go ahead and just select whichever course you would like, and you will import that into your course. So that is as simple as it is to import that content. The other thing that we wanted to communicate out, and we've shared this in other meetings, but there's always different individuals joining, and that's just a plug for the training portal. So again, no matter where you are you have a help menu here on the left-hand side. And this is where you would go to submit a ticket or initiate a chat, but it's also where you can access the training services portal. And so you'll look for that link and you can go ahead and click that, and then that will launch our training portal. And there are lots of items within this space. It's always a great recommendation that if you are somebody who is teaching a Canvas course, to start with the K-12 First Day Ready. If you are a technology director or a network administrator or the person who has been kind of leading the charge with the implementation, setting up your K-12 instance might be a worthwhile course as well, or pathway as well. But in addition to those learning pathways, there are also individual courses. So if you're interested in a specific tool set in Canvas, you can browse those as well as videos. And so what we've seen so far is kind of like a Netflix of training, where you can just come through, browse what you're looking for, and actively enroll in those offerings. Additionally, we do have live trainings, and I'm actually going to scroll back to the top. So if you are somebody who does a little bit better with interacting with a person, asking live questions, then you may want to visit the training calendar, where you can browse and sign up to attend a live session. And so you can see that every day there are several live sessions that allow you to access those trainings and engage with a Canvas trainer, where you can ask questions in the chat and get those questions answered. So that concludes what I was going to share with you about both importing content and where you can access some training materials.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. We have nothing else formally to share, unless Josh or Jaron, you guys wanted to speak to any implementation things.
Nothing in particular. Things are looking really well as far as overall divisions being progressed and completed. I know a lot of you guys are hung up in sys integration, and I've been reaching out to people in that phase this week. I'm actually gonna go back the rest of this week and reach out to people that I've already reached out to in the last 2 weeks that haven't completed all their tasks. Just to get where your mindset is and see if we can help you get over that finish line. Things are looking progressing pretty well.
Fantastic. All right, well, then let's jump right into the Q&A portion. There were a couple of questions right at the beginning about being able to pull just components of Virtual Virginia coursework into Canvas. That's not something that you can do with Commons. You have to pull in exactly what was published into Commons, but once you have it in a sandbox course, as Carissa mentioned, you can then break the content apart and move modules or other objects within the course around to some of the other courses. So that's the solution. If you just need a part of something, would be to bring it into a course that you're not working with students in, and then you can move those materials around. Robin said she had an issue when she tried to update a course. I'm assuming that was the update notification came from Commons, and she tried to get an update. You get an error that says that it was unable to find that course in Canvas. Reach out to Tier 1 support on something like that, and let them know that that's happening, and then they can do a little bit more work to figure out exactly why that might be happening. That's certainly not an expected experience, but sometimes these things happen. If somebody publishes something and then it gets pulled back and then it gets published again, the linkages can perhaps get broken. Is it possible to import content from Commons into a Google Classroom? No. Commons is definitely IMS global standards, like the packages that are in Commons are conformant to the Common Cartridge standard. Unfortunately, Google Classroom doesn't ingest Common Cartridge files. So what most folks are doing is they're bringing that content into their Canvas instance and then supplementing it with the Google integration that we have inside of Canvas. So you can take your Google Classroom content and bring that into Canvas to supplement the content that's coming in from Virtual Virginia. Let's see, we've heard that Canvas courses for school administrators have been developed. When will they be available? I don't know who developed them. Is that a Virtual Virginia thing? Or is that us?
So this is Casey Testerman. I'm the Principal Learning Consultant for VBA. I am actually going to try and create something based on this. I couldn't find something already created, so I've been working on something around that since I was an administrator. I'm going to try and come from that lens, but it is not ready yet. I will be doing courses, workshops this week with administrators. I just posted that into the chat window as well. So if you'd like to sign up for those, they're on the document, and registration links are there for you. So I will be talking around this, but I don't have the actual course prepared, and I don't know if anyone else does. So I know that probably doesn't answer your questions, but that's where I'm headed.
All right, well, that's good news anyway, because there's not much for school administrators to do just yet inside of Canvas, but pretty soon I'm sure they're going to be wanting to do virtual classroom walkthroughs and things of that nature. So having that available soon will be wonderful. Kathy asks, has there been any progress with Mastery Paths? That's a question I'm going to throw to Jaren, because I haven't been keeping up with the progress on that. Have we figured out how to allow for that to, well, honestly, I don't remember, what were the issues with Mastery Paths?
It needs to be enabled on the Virtual Virginia account. Those settings are coming down from the top level. We have enabled at least the EPUB on the top level. We could do that for the Mastery Paths.
Okay, well, there we go. Once we enable it at the Virtual Virginia instance, it should trickle down to the rest of the divisions. All right, general question, and we could put this out to everybody. What role are most divisions giving to their ITRT technology trainers? I certainly have opinions, but you may want to hear from your colleagues. And I don't know if people are just tossing answers in chat or what.
I don't mind speaking to what Bedford County is doing. We're using our ITRTs as our helping teachers with best practices of content, and the best way to use technology, not just because you're told to use the technology. And so they're focusing their training on that. Awesome.
And then within Canvas, Kathy, are you giving them a specific role, like an admin role, or are you just allowing them to kind of, push in their support when asked?
We have our ITRTs assigned to specific schools or a set of schools. And so we have set up an ITRT role for them in each of the schools that they work with or service, so that they're able to support their teachers that way. And they've been given certain rights, such as being able to impersonate a teacher to be able to help and troubleshoot in that way and that sort of thing. But they haven't been given some of the really high admin responsibilities that we just don't want them to have.
Fantastic. I think that's what I would have suggested, depending on what their purview is, if they're assigned to one school or multiple schools, or back when I was in that similar sort of role in Florida, I had 240 schools, so I had a role at the account level and not just at a school level. But you would want to put these people in a position to be able to support the users that they are responsible for. So either at the school sub-account level, or if they're elementary, middle, high, and you set your accounts up like that, you can certainly do that. And then I love your suggestion to kind of moderate their permissions and make sure that they have just what they need to get the job done. Casey shared a link to the workshops for the next couple of weeks. I highly suggest people go and check those out. The EPUB downloads for students, Jaren, you mentioned that's been taken care of. Now folks can do EPUBs in the division instances.
EPUB is available. One thing to be aware of, though, is If you have the on the account settings themselves, let me pull up my screen so you'll be able to show you. This is a one or the other option. This isn't available to have both the HTML and the EPUB option. So specifically within the guide, it says, let me check this out really quick. Cool, I'm gonna share my screen. So basically within your settings, you do need to have it enabled on the feature options page specifically. This EPUB exporting needs to be on, but at the same time, on the main account settings right here, if this option is turned on, allow students to download course content and view offline, this is the HTML option. So even if you have the EPUB one on, this one needs to be disabled, otherwise the EPUB is not available. So you need to have one or the other. But that it is available for all divisions now. If you want to turn this off and turn the EPUB on, Virtual Virginia themselves has said that the HTML is the best option though, moving forward.
All right, but you do get to make that call at the division level, just like Jaren showed you. It's either or, you can't have both. So if you've got that button ticked, you're not gonna be able to see the EPUB. So uncheck that and you should be able to get your EPUB files without any issue. Let's see, next. Do school systems have any guidance with monitoring the messages in Canvas between students? Any suggestions or ideas are good. Well, you can disable student-to-student messaging. That's one way. Anybody want to show how that is done?
I can show that really quick. So under permissions, if you just start typing messages in there, there is the availability to send messages to the entire class or send members messages to individual course members. You can turn that off specifically for the students. I believe it's enabled by default. So that's just a general permission that you can be able to turn off on that level. Keep in mind, this will still allow the student to reach directly out to the teacher for the messaging. This will just prevent it from back and forth between other students and to the entire class. Yeah,
we usually see K-12 disable those permissions. Higher ed tends to keep them on, but for K-12 purposes, it might be a good idea to just disable those. Kids are going to find a way to talk to each other regardless, but you don't want to provide them an avenue that you're not monitoring, I imagine. Let's see. Joey asks, what is the benefit of apps just to have a space for commonly used sites? I'm trying to figure out why I should add those versus directing students to websites like BrainPop or Flipgrid. Generally speaking, in K-12, what we see is people wanting to kind of contextualize all of the applications that you might have access to. So your procured instructional materials, your third-party applications like you mentioned, BrainPop or Flipgrid. If you can build a Canvas course with all of those components together and have a student be able to kind of go through that course in a way that allows them to experience those things in a sequence that the teacher wants, tends to be a better user experience than just telling the students to go to BrainPop and find a particular activity or Flipgrid or something like that. So that's the other benefit of the apps, is that oftentimes it gives the teacher the ability to pinpoint exactly what part of that app they want the students to interact with. So you've got a lot more fine-tuned control and less having to direct the students to find the resource that you want.
May I jump on? Oh, go ahead, Rachel.
I was just going to add another layer to that. Is some of those third-party tools allow the grade that the student receives in those activities to come back into Canvas. Casey, I'm not sure if that's the direction you're headed, but that would be another reason why you would want to integrate them directly into the LMS.
And it's really containing all in one lesson package. So you are not sending students out to a website, which sometimes they get lost. Think about when you're on Pinterest and you go down that rabbit hole and you figure out, you're not sure how you got to like cats with bread hats. But if you start with the lesson package in the module and you build them all inside of that, then you're keeping students on a flow and containing them within the Canvas lesson package. And as Rachel said, the grades can come into it, which is much easier for you in your speed grader as well.
It also allows account management in most cases too, so that the accounts are provisioned, more or less feel like they're provisioned from Canvas, so they're not having to authenticate multiple places in different ways. So it just kind of consolidates that user experience, especially for your littles.
And a lot of divisions and districts that we work with will leverage both. They'll install the apps inside of Canvas for those times when the teacher wants to direct students to a particular activity, but they'll also allow the students to find those apps through their single sign-on dashboard like Clever or ClassLink, so that if the student wants to go in and explore on their own, they have that availability. But if the teacher wants to direct them to something specific, it's right there inside of Canvas. So it doesn't have to be either or. Emily asks, what's best practice for student groups like clubs, whole class groups like your high school seniors, or a library course that's not a scheduled course? I'm going to pitch that off to some of our other experts.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take that, Dominic. Canvas does have a tool that is account level groups. But frankly, I think that you're better off using courses for that kind of functionality, just because of the way that it's easier to enroll individuals into courses versus accounts. And so based on how your institution or your division is set up, a individual teacher might have the ability to manually create a course that is outside of the SIS integration, and then just plug in the email addresses to the students who should be a part of those groups or clubs. And so it's really as simple as that. There are also options for join codes to allow students to self-enroll into those courses or groups in this case. But generally, it's just creating a course that is outside of the SIS integration and enrolling the users who should have access to those.
I will say that we did a flex at the end of the day in one of my former districts divisions for you, and we did use the group feature for sign up because you could have students enroll that way. So I think it's a preference as to what you're looking for and whether you want them to be in it continually or if it's something that they're going to be offered as a pop in, pop out weekly or something to that effect.
All right, next we've got, if you put a VBA course into a sandbox, will you only be able to move things around, or can a modular activity be shared from that sandbox course to somewhere else? Simple answer is you can share individual objects, entire modules, or that entire course with other courses within the other courses that the teacher's enrolled in and as a teacher. So if a teacher pulls something in from Virtual Virginia Commons, they can move components of that into other courses. Catherine asks, is the choice-led health curriculum available in VVA Commons yet? I don't know if Sarah has jumped in and answered that question. She sometimes does that, or if somebody wants to jump on and speak to that, but that's not one that I have the answer to.
I am happy to jump in. Hello, everybody. So we are working with Vanessa Wiggin and Elizabeth at the Department of Education to finalize the choice-led health content. It is still in the final stages, and once that is available for sharing, then we will certainly send a message out and make that available in Commons, but it's still under the final revision stage.
Thank you, Sarah. Rod from VSTE mentioned that he's looking forward to Casey's teacher workshop webinars. You should be. They're going to be fantastic. Casey's been an awesome addition to the team. Lucy asked, what's the immediate fix for SIS problems? Putting in tickets and waiting days is unrealistic. Josh, Jaron, what are your suggestions?
So Lucy, we've chatted about this one a little bit as well. What I'd highly recommend is we don't have the ability to troubleshoot every single little SIS thing, whether it's just a few enrollments or a few students or such. I am coming up with a canned email that I can be able to share out that basically looks for certain things. So hey, if there's an email missing for the specific person, then we can't create the person because we're missing that login identifier or whatever that login identifier is going to be, and also taking a look at the SIS imports page from there. So I'm going to put together a couple of quick troubleshooting things you can do on your site, but I still need those support tickets in to be able to help out further with those, to be able to dive into them more. If you want to share those with us, then we can be able to push those to our SIS support team directly, be able to help you from there. But they are the ones with the best resources to be able to do those quick troubleshooting, or at least do the deep dives into them.
Hey, Jaren, can you show us exactly how to get to the troubleshooting tickets? How to put that in?
Yeah, when you create, when you share my screen. Actually, let me just do it from top level. So specifically from here, if you go click on the help menu right here, then you can actually go to create a ticket from here. So there's 3 different methods. You can be able to call us, you can chat us, or you can be able to do a report a problem. And when I say us, that's actually our support team. So one of these 3 things right here, those are going to be available in your help menu. We've set this up for like 95% of all districts at this point, so that's where it should be available. Once you have a ticket, share that ticket number with us. It should be in the subject line of the response back that you get from our Canvas support team, and then we can be able to send that into our team. They are definitely getting hit pretty heavily right now, our support team, but that's going to be the best process to be able to make that happen. Does that make sense, Allison?
Yeah, so when you say share the ticket number, are you telling us to share it with you directly, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you supposed to VVA help,
Okay.
route those to the our SIS import team, and they'd be best suited to help. And that way we can try to skip that large general support queue and get it right to who will help you the best.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, so when you reach out initially, you're going to be talking to an L1. L1 is not going to be the SIS specialist by any means, but if you make sure you reference like Power School or your SIS specifically, then they're going to know that that's the specific issue. If you drop the support ticket in with us, we'll make sure it gets directed into their queue from there.
All right, then Allison also asked, she's got 2 counselors that were automatically imported into Canvas. Yay, we love when things happen automatically. However, they don't have the option to add a course. Any suggestions to troubleshoot this? Your instance is probably set up to only allow teachers to create their own courses, which means they have to actually be enrolled in a course as a teacher. So the easiest way to troubleshoot this is to create a couple of courses, add those counselors to their own courses, make sure they're enrolled as teachers in those courses, and then they should be able to spin up additional courses of their own. There is a checkbox in the Canvas settings that allows people that are unenrolled in any courses to create their own courses, but I don't suggest checking that just in case a student ever is an unenrolled person and can then spin up their own courses and get teacher level access to things. So
just for clarification, I have a behavior interventionist, and in Power School, I have him listed with a caseload. It's not really a course, but he is able to create courses. Is that because he has an associated?
Yeah, it sounds like if he's got a caseload in Power School, then that's coming over as a course in Canvas, which would make him a teacher in the Canvas side. So if that's the case, then he should be A-okay. Those ones that are coming over without courses associated, if you want to give them teacher privileges, you just need to spin up a sandbox course and enroll them in there.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, and Lucy shared that they created, back to that ITRT question, a specific role. That's fantastic. Robin asks, is it possible for Jaren to see if Highland County is connected now? Jaren, you want to answer that?
I actually noticed it a little bit ago, so he started the process. I'll shoot you back an email when I've got some updates for you.
Awesome. Aaron asks, can we keep a standing agenda item each week to update on the status of the Canvas Power School Grade Pass Back? You've heard that positive talks are in the works. Positive talks are in the works. That's the only update that we have for you this week. If you keep asking, we will absolutely keep telling you where we are with that. We feel good, but there's nothing beyond that I can share at this point. Joey says, it was easy for staff to log in. How about students? How do they log in? School email ID is their generic password. Joey, generally speaking, they're going to log in using whatever authentication method you set up in your Canvas instance. I don't know what division you're in to be able to check that out, but if you're using things like Google, Microsoft, or Clever to log in for your staff, your students would do the exact same thing. If you're using Canvas authentication, that's a whole different story, and Jaren can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so we don't.
Go ahead, sorry.
We don't by default set a password up for users. If they do have an email, then you can just utilize the forgot password. At least if that's the Canvas authentication. This is going to be different if you've got an external authentication such as Google or Microsoft OAuth or other things like that. What division are you specifically though? And I can dive into that and shoot a response out.
I'm in the same division with Joey. We're in Bath County and we're using the Canvas authentication for staff.
Okay. I think for you, I've actually set up the password as the date of birth specifically for the students. I've been working with Mark on this, I believe.
Okay. He was supposed to reach out. I hadn't heard from him. Good.
Yeah. So just reach out to Mark. I sent him an email, I think yesterday with an update on that.
Great.
All right, we got a couple of comments responding to the ITRT question. Fantastic. Admins in Waynesboro. Let's see. Tani asks, how can I upload a large number of students for a manually created course via CSV as an admin? Is there a sample file template that you could share? Absolutely. We would be happy to.
I'll grab the link, Dominic, and put it in the chat.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, there's some samples there to, and that CSV zip file that Rachel's going to send over is going to show you the users, CSV courses, enrollments. So you'll be able to reference that documentation to be able to either create the users if they're not created yet, but they probably are. But if you just need to move them into a course, that would be the enrollments file. Let's see.
Yeah. The only thing that I'll just add to that, Dominic, is I provided the documentation there, but just be mindful of user IDs and login IDs so you're not duplicating users who already exist. And if you have any specific questions on that, just let us know, but we just want to make sure that you're not duplicating data that already exists by using that file. And I think Jaron might share something with us here.
Yeah, so under the settings of your course, or sorry, your specific division in Canvas, you can actually run a report. So Tony, you can actually do it from the provisioning or the sys export, whatever you'd prefer. If you want to pull from the sys export though, that's going to be everything that's coming over. And you really only need to key off those users IDs. So all you want to do is that one specifically. And then basically what you could do is put together an enrollment CSV, which is what Rachel shared in the chat. If you pop up the enrollment CSV, should be pretty easy. All you really need to have is that specific course ID that you want to put everyone into a manually created one. You do need to create a specific sys ID for that manually created course. That's just from the course settings right there, pretty easy to do. So once you've identified what that is, put that in as the first field right there. And then you basically put in that specific user ID. And if you want to put them as a student, teacher, etc., just put in the title from there and change the status to active. So it's not too bad to put together. If you've already got all those user IDs pulled into Canvas somewhere, just pull in that report from either sys export or the provisioning, and then connect them from that enrollment CSV.
While you've got your screen up, Jaron, Jay asks, sections are coming over cross-listed from PowerSchool. He wants to know, they've sent the instructions for how to decross-list, but teachers don't seem to have that button to decross-list their sections.
They don't automatically have that. That is only if a teacher, so the decross-list button is only available for admins. They might show up like a recross list if they have moved them before. But that decross list is not there by default. That's only if they've been moved. By default, with your integration with the one-to-many setup, that was never moved. That was never had to be manually moved. So that is just the initial setup. What they will have to do is basically just create a new class. So if you go to the dashboard for the teacher, start a new course right here, call it whatever you want, cross-list course. And this is the one that the teachers will need to move that content into, just by grabbing this specific ID, going to the other class that they want to move that course from. So like 8th grade math right here, go to the settings of the course. I know I'm moving at light speed, but if you go to that specific section right here, you can say, hey, cross-list this section. I could be able to pop in that specific ID that I grabbed from this cross-list course right here. And it'll say, hey, yeah, is this the one you want to move it to? And that's how you actually move it into there.
Awesome, thank you.
That was way too quick, but there you go.
Well, luckily we're recording this. Christy asks, are the new workshops going to be viewable after the fact? Casey, are you recording your workshops?
Yes, they're already on that sheet that I shared. So anything that's been recorded is there, and then it'll take the place of the registration link.
Awesome. Kathy asks, is there a way once PowerSchool is imported to the class information and the individual school sub-accounts were created as a result to go back and somehow group those schools by level to assign roles and permissions? The short answer is yes. Does somebody want to talk about how? This is a Rachel or Jaren question, although I know.
Sorry, I've lost where it is in the chat. I'm just trying to see if I can get back.
1:15 p.m. We're about 20 minutes behind at this point.
Okay. Who was the question from, Dominic? Sorry.
Kathy Scalpini.
Oh, to regroup the sub accounts. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Yes, there is a way to do that. And let me just get to an admin login, unless Jaren, you have easy access to that.
Probably beat me. Yeah, okay.
Dominic, if you want to move on to the next question, I'll prepare what I need on my screen to answer that question efficiently.
Perfect. All right, we'll come back to that in just a sec. Mike asked about the decross listing, and Jaren just answered that one. If you missed the lightning quick demo of that, come back to the recording. Let's see. Kelly asks, how can the Canvas admin for my district turn on the options for teachers to generate the parent app pairing codes for students?
That's available on the authentication page. If you turn it on for the self-registration right here, under the Canvas authentication, that's where you access it. Once you save it, it'll be available on the login/Canvas screen. If that's not your default screen, then you're going to need to find a way to be able to direct it, the parents directly to this. I'd highly recommend a discovery page where you can basically have it broken down by this is where the students and teachers will be logging in. This is where the parents will be logging in specifically. But once they actually hit the specific login/Canvas, then they're going to have this option right here. Nice little directions on how to generate a pairing code.
So my question actually is, we have it turned on that the students can generate a pairing code, but the teachers can't generate a pairing code.
Gotcha.
So how do you turn that on so the teachers can do it?
Yeah, that's a permission specifically. So if you go to the permissions page, I would just start typing pairing or code or something. And then you can actually turn it on for teachers to enable that. And that's actually done on the course level. So if you go to a specific course, go to the People tab. It's going to be available from the three button drop down right here. You can actually export the pairing code in mass. That'll basically generate a file for every single student in here and give them one pairing code that they can utilize from there. Not that you can see that.
All right, Dominic, I'm ready to answer the sub-account restructuring question.
All right, do it to it.
Okay. All right, so your sub-accounts are going to look very different than what's on my screen because you probably have a flat hierarchy with all of your schools listed. The best way to reorganize them is using, in my opinion, is using a CSV import to restructure those and kind of create a hierarchy for yourself. So Jaren had previously demonstrated how to get the user IDs for all of the users. You can also use the provisioning report here to select accounts in order to download all of the accounts that have been provisioned by the SIS. And the reason that's important is, I'll show you in just a moment, is that when those schools get provisioned from the SIS, it comes over with an account identifier. And so now coming back to the formatting of CSV imports that we previously shared, if I scroll down to accounts, you'll see as a part of this file import that you can import your accounts with an account ID and a parent account ID. So when you are creating the new SIS or the new CSV import, you're going to want to create the new top level accounts that you then want to categorize your schools into their correct hierarchy. But exporting this provisioning report will give you the identifiers of all of your current schools so that you could then go ahead and add higher level accounts or categories and then move your schools as child accounts of those top level categories. I hope that that made sense, but let us know if you need any clarification on that.
Thanks, Rachel. All right, a couple of questions about HTML versus EPUB. The HTML doesn't work well on the Chromebooks, M. Callahan mentioned. And if that's the case, I could certainly see the rationale behind wanting access to the EPUBs. As far as the difference between the two, the content that is available in both is the same. It's always going to be all of the content that's been directly entered into Canvas, as well as any files that have been uploaded. So images or video files, audio files that have been uploaded to Canvas, not things that have been embedded, but those uploads are going to be packaged in the either the EPUB or the HTML zip file that gets downloaded. It really just is a question of what works best for the devices that you have available. So if the HTML is not working great on Chromebooks, check out the EPUBs and leverage an EPUB reader on your Chromebook. You know, if the HTML, I know that Virtual Virginia is of the opinion that the HTML seems to work better for the content that they're building. And so that would be my default. And unless that doesn't work well for you, to stick with that.
So Dom, we have been working for 2 days because the HTML files are getting too big for us. Mm-hmm. So for the iBook and the Chromebook specifically, the EPUB's working. And when we got in today, we no longer have the option to use EPUB for some reason. Our download under settings, account settings, isn't available anymore. So was it taken away or should it be there?
That may have gotten toggled off for you, or if somebody ticked that box, that HTML box in the settings, it could have disappeared for you. So we'll have to check the feature flag and the settings to make sure that everything is set correctly.
Okay, because we've checked on our end at the admin level and it's only keeping it toggled on so we can do HTML. We can't toggle it off at all to do EPUB. So
right. Send us a message, vvahelp@instructure.com, and we'll take a look at that.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome. Kelly asks, is there a way to pull co-teachers from PowerSchool so that they're automatically assigned as a teacher to their courses in Canvas? I don't know how we handle co-teachers, but I imagine if no, or is that?
Unfortunately, no, we don't have that ability through the PowerSchool integration that we have to be able to pull them as co-teachers. It'll be a manual process to be able to add them to those courses. And the teachers can do it themselves if they want.
Gotcha. All right, so that enrollment association is not coming over for the co-teachers. All right. What's the best way to link Google Docs and assignments? We try to do this through external tools, but it does not seem to add a file for each student to the teacher's folder in Google Drive. We see both Google Cloud and Google Assignments. All right, so you have both of the Google LTI applications installed. If you specifically want to do the thing where the teacher shares a Google file and there's a generated one for every student, that's the cloud assignment. That's not just linking the Google file in a module, for instance. That is still going to be owned by the teacher. So you would have to, yep, you're going to show them?
Yep.
Fantastic.
Okay, so if you are creating an assignment that you want to distribute a unique copy to every student in your class, I'm just going to go ahead and create an assignment here from the assignments page, but you can also do this from modules. So here I can Provide my assignment name, a description if I need to, although often with those distributed templates, it's not needed. But this is what's the important step. The submission type is going to be modified to an external tool for your submission type. And whether you are using I don't want to confuse matters, but whether you're using kind of the legacy Google integration or the newly released Google integration, it's the same process that you'll go ahead and select whichever Google option that you have. I'll go ahead and demonstrate from the new integration just so those can see that. This is where I select my teacher account here. And at this point, this is going to look a lot like Google Classroom, if that's a tool that you've been using. And now here is where I will grab the template that I want to distribute to my students. In this case, we'll go ahead and distribute a reading log to all of the students to complete. Any points, any due date that I want to assign to that. If I want to attach a rubric, I can there. And then I will simply click that create button. And now when I click save, I have created an assignment for my students that delivers that individual template to each of those students.
If you don't mind if I ask a question, we've done that. This is Mark from Culpeper. What we're running into the issue now is when we go to the assignments folder in our Google Drive, I guess we anticipated that file, the copy for the student, would be housed in that assignments file, but the teacher doesn't have access to that file itself. They can see it through the speed grader, but not in their actual Google Drive.
Okay, and do you know if you're using, did you specifically configure the new Google integration, or are you still working on the prior integration?
I think we're using the new one. It says Google Assignments.
Yep, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, the other one was beta.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that's what I would recommend going forward. So I just wanted to make sure that was the case. Now, if I come to my drive here, I'm in my wrong account. Let me go to the one that's connected to Google Assignments. When I come here, you'll see that I have a folder for assignments. So this is something that gets automatically created by the integration. I go into assignments. These are all of the courses that I have created some kind of connection with. I believe, not sure which course I just created that in. Okay, and so now here is an assignment where the students' own submissions would appear. And so I should see those. Now the student may, I believe the student needs to access that assignment in order for their copies to go to their drives, which then gets shared back to my drive. So there could be a reason that you're not seeing all of the students' individual copies because they haven't accessed that assignment yet. But then when they access that assignment, it's at that point that the copies all get made, sent to the teacher's Google Drive, and then they would be able to monitor that progress in while they're working on it and after they submit them.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. We've got a question. Is there a way to have one login for other sites such as Reflex, IXL from their Canvas login? Haven't been able to see the apps for Reflex and IXL, and those might not exist. You can place single sign-on links within Canvas, and as long as you're using the same single sign-on authentication to get into Canvas, those links will take them to things like Reflex or IXL. If you've got different authentication methods for all of these things, then there's not much that we can do to pass that authentication through. But as long as, for instance, I'm familiar with Clever, you could go into your Clever dashboard and grab that single sign-on link. It's, it's a mile long with lots of characters and stuff. And you could actually use the redirect app inside of Canvas, or you could just create a button in a course and link that button to it, and that would push the students into whatever apps you wanted. Let's see, is there a way to set up a choice board of extension courses that students can select throughout the week? This would be for the whole student body. Who wants to tackle that one?
I don't entirely know what that means. You can make a course public though, and basically just have that course listed out is potentially listed in the help menu, that they could be able to go click on that and be able to go check out the links that are specifically in there. That's what I'd recommend for that kind of situation, just putting a course public and then having some redirect links specifically on there. I don't know what a choice board of extension courses are specifically, but you could definitely link out to the courses from there.
If you wanted to, I'll piggyback on Jaren's idea. You can generate enrollment codes or like at a course level. And so if you had one course that was maybe institutionally available, and then you took those enrollment codes and dropped them in, then students could self-enroll in some of those extension courses. You know, we would do things like that for chess club or, you know, other extracurricular activities that students may want to participate in. They have a way to get into those. All right, Casey was responding to somebody earlier. Aaron says we're interested in pulling specific pages from full shared modules on Commons. Is there a process? No, we had mentioned this earlier. You can't just pull things out of Commons individually. You've got to pull the entire package into a sandbox course, and then you're able to pick that apart and grab just what you need. Let's see. Kristen, we're working on downloads at our district. We've been working in EPUB and found workarounds to make it work on iPads, Chromebooks, MacBooks. Just read an email stating EPUB's now turned off. Is that for everyone? I don't know the answer to that question. I thought we had made it so that we could enable it. Yeah, I'm getting a head shake from Jaren. I don't think it's turned off for everyone. You may want to just double check the settings. Let's see, Rachel shared that link. General question, any suggestions for special ed? I'm in a small division, so just curious what others may be doing. We could probably spend all of next week talking about how Canvas can support your special ed kids. It's, you know, with 9 minutes left, I don't think we can give it due diligence on that, but it looks like
I responded to her and talked back and forth a little bit. So
awesome. So I will quickly scan through that, and maybe we will use that as a topic in a future meeting. We talked about the parent join code. Let's see, Casey. Jay asked, does the Discovery landing page help with the Canvas mobile apps to redirect teachers, students, observers to the correct login authentication method?
The Discovery page will overwrite the main landing page, whether it's going to be directing whatever's in position 1, whether it's to the SAML or the Canvas authentication. The Discovery page overwrites that unless there's a direct link to the login/SAML, login/Canvas, which will be on that specific Discovery page. That'll be available whether it's mobile or desktop.
Jamie followed up with, we can actually do a second domain lookup in the app. So just let us know and we'll be able to take care of that for you.
Jaren, I have a question about that real quick.
Yeah.
Does it have to be something turned on at the division level? Because we've tried it several times from the parent app with them creating their own course, and we're able to get through everything to set up the new account, but then it pops up this big whoops, you don't have any courses. Is that normal?
So most likely your students don't have courses yet, and that's my main guess with that, just because class hasn't started yet, and they're basically just seeing everything that the student would see. So I specifically got at this Google ID right here. This is my my specific user that I like to go off of, the student, and I've actually got a parent accessing this student's courses. So if the student has no courses, then they wouldn't see anything either, or they'd probably just be sitting in like a future enrollments. So they wouldn't have any access to anything yet either. The parent only has access to see what the student can access. So I think that's probably why they're seeing that.
Once our term starts on Monday, if I'm still having the problem, reach back out. Because I put a ticket in today because I was told to do that yesterday.
Yeah, they'll probably reach out and say the same thing. The courses need to be published, and they need
They
to
are.
potentially the start date needs to happen depending on what your settings are.
Okay.
But that's something else to be able to key off of on the main account settings. That's one of the options. If they can access the courses before the start date. Right here,
Okay.
restrict students from accessing courses before the start date and even seeing the future courses. If these are enabled, they won't see anything. So there's just a couple of things to be aware of on that end.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Following up on the domain question from before, the domain lookup, Jay asks, would a discovery page display in the mobile apps if they did that? Yeah, Jaren's shaking his head.
Yeah.
Christy asks, what's the preferred EPUB viewer? We don't have a preferred EPUB viewer. It really is what works best for you. I wonder what other folks, you know, in the Commonwealth have found is working well for them. Kim asks about co-teachers in Synergy. Is that an issue, or do those get automatically enrolled?
I actually don't know that answer. Sorry, Kim. If you shoot us an example, we can be able to take a look at it.
I was just thinking in terms of what the Power School question was, because I know we don't link our co-teachers until later in the semester. So we
Gotcha.
weren't sure should we just share the classes now, or is it going to get linked automatically? So
if you want to do a test run and set up one of those beforehand early on and see if it functions or not, then you can be able to do that. And then you can be able to decide from there if it's something we need to do beforehand manually, or if it's something that'll automatically happen. That's what I'd recommend,
okay,
if that's possible.
I'll get Tommy on that with you. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Allison asks the classic question, what is the roll call attendance tool and how do you enable it? My advice is don't. The roll call attendance tool is something that's used in higher ed, where they're leveraging Canvas sort of as their LMS and student information system all in one. You probably already have an attendance tool that you use with your SIS, and so there's really not a great reason to use the Canvas roll call attendance tool. What it does is generates an assignment column that gives you a check or not a check if people are in attendance. That, you know, the teacher goes through and checks attendance, but like I mentioned, you probably already have some place for you to take attendance, so I wouldn't leverage that roll call attendance tool. Almost nobody in K-12 uses it. Let's see. But if you can come up with some really, really great reason, we can talk about how to enable it. I won't poo-poo the idea too much.
Oh no, I'm going to quote you directly and tell all the teachers that you said absolutely not.
There you go. Tell them Dominic said absolutely not. It's
That's
a
right.
terrible
Thank
idea. Let's see. Katie sent the link to the roll call, and I'm still saying absolutely not. Let's see. Is content created through new quizzes able to export to Canvas Commons?
I don't think I have an answer on that one.
I'm looking it up. I don't know the answer.
The answer is no.
Okay, the answer is no. New quizzes cannot export to Commons. Let's see. We've got a question. How do we link to a specific page in a module? Every single asset inside of Canvas has a unique URL. And if you're just asking like how do you add a page to a module, it's that plus button in the module header. But if you're looking to link specifically to things, everything has a unique URL in Canvas that you can always pull in and add places.
I can show that real quickly if it's helpful. I think that we're winding down on the questions here, and
It looks like it.
To answer that. Okay, so here in modules, based on what you're trying to accomplish, so I have a module here, so maybe a Canvas page has been created but hasn't yet been added to a module for some reason. Anything that I want to add, regardless of what it is to the module, I always use this plus button here in the top right corner. If it's a Canvas page, then any page in my course is listed here, and I can add that to my module. If the question is how do you add an external URL or another website page, then you're going to use the drop down here to select external URL. You'll enter the URL, how you want it to appear in the module, that's what page name means, and do you want it to load inside of Canvas, embedded within the course, or do you want it to load or open in a new tab?
Awesome. So you covered Canvas pages and web pages from within a module. Casey also provided a little context around that. And then it looks like we've got one last question from Mike. This goes to you, Jaren. How do we enable the Discovery login landing page? Right from within.
I muted myself. Sorry. If you go to the authentication page, under the Discover URL right here is where it's located. You can pretty much put anything here, and that'll be the main landing page, such as Rebecca Black's Friday video. But yeah, make sure it's actually something that'll be a good resource for your teachers. But this will be the main location to go to, unless they hit specifically like login/Canvas or login/SAML, whatever that number is. But yeah, that's the Discovery URL section right there. We do have this really intense guide all about it. It's written out. Happy to share that along if you have more questions that this will help you out with.
Jamie already added it to the chat. And Sarah updated everyone and said that they're going to be updating quiz content that was originally created in new quizzes, and those items will be updated as quickly as possible. And at that point, they'll be able to be shared to Commons and moved around. All right, that took us right to the 2 o'clock top of the hour. I appreciate everybody spending time. Again, today, we've got a couple more of these Tuesday sessions left, but of course, you've got your Monday and Friday sessions with Josh and Jaren, as well as the upcoming webinars with Casey. So lots and lots of resources available for you all. Always feel free to reach out to us at vvahelp@instructure.com. And we're looking forward to seeing what the start of school looks like for everybody. Good luck to everyone that's starting, or has started already. All right, I'm going to end it. Look for the videos in the VSTE YouTube channel, as well as wherever your recording webinars are housed. Talk to you all soon.